Welcome to Around the Ozarks, a public affairs program brought to you by your local Midwest family broadcasting station. Here's your host, Scott Meyer.
Good morning and welcome back again to Around the Ozarks. This is our second installment. My name is Scott Meyer. I'm the general manager here at Midwest Family Broadcasting, and I've got a very special guest this morning and something that's very close to my own heart because I've been involved with child advocacy centers around the country. But this morning it's Barbara Brown Johnson, who's the executive director. Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning.
And thank you for coming in to
Thanks
join
for
us
asking us
on Around the Ozarks. I think the first question, the easiest question before we get into the real nitty-gritty stuff, why don't you tell our listeners, what does it mean to Springfield to have this group?
Well, I think one of the most basic things it means is that it's a different approach to working child abuse cases. And that can certainly be applied to Springfield, but really it applies all around the nation. The old way of working a child abuse case was folks that were very well-meaning, loved kids, wanted the best for kids, but didn't necessarily know any of the research behind it's better for the child and the family if you react this way and have this best practice or that best practice. Inadvertently, really compromised child abuse cases, which meant that no one was held accountable, which is not good for a community. And most importantly, the child and family were re-traumatized to the point that they didn't even want to go through the system. So it was not good for anyone. And again, that's everywhere that was going on. So I think that one of our main strengths is we've brought those services to this general region, but at the heart of those services is a multidisciplinary team approach. So nobody is a one-man band. Mm-hmm. Everybody works it together. These are really, really tough calls to make and really difficult things to talk about. And no one should have to go it alone as far as thinking about all the potential possibilities and ways to make sure kids are safe. I
would imagine that your relationship, certainly at least here in Springfield proper, is pretty close with the local police.
You bet. You bet.
And who leads that charge? Do you work directly with Paul? Or
Absolutely. Absolutely. So he assigns folks out. Of course, he can't work directly, but they all have their hierarchy that they work with. And we have wonderful cooperation from Greene and really the surrounding counties.
Right. I think what's interesting, and one of the reasons I got involved with child advocacy in my days in Michigan, was traumatization that young people, and when we say young, and this is one of the questions I'll ask you later, but we can talk about around almost infant stage in some respects, all the way up to age 17.
Absolutely.
And before there were advocacy centers for these young people to go and receive discussion, if nothing else, would be the backseat of a police station,
right.
Police car. And when you consider the traumatization that some of these young people would be going through, and then having no place to go that would give you any kind of comfort and safety is a big part of what you do.
Absolutely. Well, you can imagine the average age child we serve is between 7 and 8. And
which just breaks your heart.
It breaks your heart. If you have been threatened not to tell, which many, many of these children have been threatened not to tell, then, or they've been threatened that, they'll kill their dog or their baby brother, or they'll get taken custody of, or the police will come to their house and arrest them, all sorts of things, then some of those things can come true. Police do sometimes then have to come to their house. Sometimes they are put in foster care. Mm-hmm. Out of necessity, just to keep them safe. But it makes it really, really difficult to convince kids or to set up a context where it really is safe to disclose. And having the Child Advocacy Center on Walnut Street based in a house that is anything but scary goes a long way in making sure that these kids can safely disclose if there's something to disclose.
Our guest this morning is Barbara Brown Johnson. She's the executive director at the Child Advocacy Center here in Springfield. One of the things that I've found in the past that I think is a little shocking is typically I think people think groups like yours are only necessary for inner city kids. I'd like you to address that a little bit. Do rural families have a need for this as well?
Oh, my goodness. Absolutely. In fact, we know that often the more rural the area, especially around green, the higher the poverty rate. We know from the research the higher the poverty rate, also the higher the child abuse rate. Not to say that only poor people abuse their children, but with poverty comes lots of complicating factors that makes it more difficult to be a good, decent parent. So no, it's also isolated. Out in the rural areas, there are fewer support systems to help families in their struggles. So, no, it is absolutely not just in the cities. It is
how far out does your group cover?
We serve about 12 counties, so Taney and South Central Missouri over to West Plains in that region. We have a satellite actually in West Plains, but all of those are much more rural areas than what we have right here in Greene County. And we see the depletion of resources to match that rural area.
I want to put you on the spot for a minute,
Okay.
but one of the things that groups like yours are so very good at is it's results driven. There's actually hardcore results as opposed to some public service that tries to attack a situation, but it happens over years and years and years, and there's never a cure. And sometimes you wonder if it's just to keep people working, and that's certainly not the case here. Can you tell us a good story? Is there a good story that you can relate to the listeners about something where maybe a young person was involved that has a great finish, and
I have
and the
hundreds.
clinic was.
Yeah.
Well, can you share one with us?
I have hundreds of stories. This is just one of them. This was in one of our outlying counties. Two little girls, best friends. One little girl spent the night with her best friend, same age, about second grade. And in the middle of the night, one of her friend's family members came in and molested her rather severely. In the morning, she didn't say anything about it, but when her mother came to pick her up, she immediately disclosed to her mother when she got in the car. Mom, of course, was extremely upset, freaked out, went home, called the police. They hotlined. Children's Division came in. And not surprisingly, the little girl was totally traumatized and said she absolutely was not going to talk about it, wasn't going to go for an exam, which meant we were probably going to lose some evidence because the assault was just hours old. And our child advocates got on the phone and talked to the parents and said, why don't you all come? You come to the CAC, do a tour. You can take that information back to your daughter. And that's exactly what they did. So later that day, we saw the little girl. And she went through the process. It was still difficult, but it was so much better than it would have been. 2 days later, we got a letter from her, from the little girl, written in her hand, naming the people in the CAC who had worked her case and talking about she wanted them to come to her birthday party and that she was thanking them for making her not feel scared. And that was a wonderful ending to a horrific start of a story. The young juvenile, I believe that he was certified as an adult because it was such a horrific crime. But that's the piece we play in the system. Our job is to make it easier and better for kids and families to intersect with the system. And all of the team were on the same page on this one. The law enforcement was, Children's Division was, and they wanted to serve this child just like we wanted to.
My guest this morning on Around the Ozarks is Barbara Brown Johnson, who's the Executive Director of the Child Advocacy Center here in Springfield. I'm Scott Meyer, the General Manager here at Midwest Family Broadcasting. Typically, a story such as that can really touch the heart, obviously, because now people can relate. Any of us that are parents can't help but relate to your sharing a story like that. What about funding for the center? Does it come from United Way, or is your funding all self-driven?
It is from a variety. We probably have 20 to 25 different funding streams at any given time. We write federal grants, state grants. We write foundational grants. We have huge fundraisers. If this radio station helped us out with Over the Edge, it was a huge success. Largest fundraiser we've ever had. Thank you very much. And we just do a number of small things for those with small pocketbooks, like our annual campaign. You want to give $5, you can. We have online giving that you can set up $5 a month for ad nauseum, just infinitum. So you don't even have to think about it ever again. Or obviously we take larger donations than that. But we have tried to build a whole scope, if you will, of opportunities for folks to give to us if they want to, but they have to understand that this service is sorely needed here. Greene County, well, the average child abuse rate in the state is, all rounded off, 41% in the state. Greene County alone is something like 66%.
Oh, goodness.
So we're needed here. This service is needed here.
On average, a year, how many young people do you think you help?
Well, last year we served 1,350 children. Now, there are 15 CACs through the state, and this is the 8th year in a row that we have seen more children than any other child advocacy center. So again, back to there's a great need. We have a really complex service area of both rural and a little more urban in Greene. Mm-hmm. So it makes it really difficult because, some counties have some services while other counties don't. So we work very, very hard to make sure that every child victim and every family of a child victim that's a non-offending parent have the support they need to make sure that they have the tools to keep the child from being re-victimized, because that's one of the things we see a lot. Because we know that from the research, if we don't have those specific kinds of trauma-informed interventions, that child is almost guaranteed to be re-victimized again. So it really can be the end of the abuse if we do it right on the front end. Would that we could prevent it, but we can't always do that. So this is second best.
Barbara, can you share with our audience this morning the website
You bet.
They can get more involved?
You bet. childadvocacycenter.org.
Excellent. And we'll post that on our website as well. So I want to take a moment and thank Barbara for coming in today. Not an easy thing to talk about, a tough thing to talk about, but the work that the Child Advocacy Center does obviously is really important.
Thank you.
If you saw some of the equipment there, they work with the youngest people. It'd break your heart. But it also makes you feel good because obviously we're getting to the roots of the evil that is taking advantage of these young people. So I'd like to take this moment, Barbara, to thank you for coming in.
Thank you for asking.
And as I say, we'll have all the information posted on our website, and you'll have an opportunity to get that. Again, this is Around the Ozarks. My guest this morning, Barbara Brown-Johnson, the Executive Director of the Child Advocacy Center. And we'll have more right after these messages.
If you're looking for a night of fun and laughter, then join us for the Not So Newlywed Game supporting the Betty and Bobby Allison Ozarks Counseling Center. The fun begins at 6 p.m. on August 12th with heavy appetizers and silent auction. Then things really heat up with some of the area's top couples as we find out who's been paying attention all these years. Call us at 869-9011 or go online to ozarkscounselingcenter.org to reserve your seats today for only $75 each. You won't want to miss it.
Bring out the kiddos and enjoy a fun day complete with great barbecue, games, bounce houses, crafts, and more. The Junior Cattle Barons Ball is an amazing free event for pediatric cancer patients, survivors, and their families, all while letting kids experience fun and freedom thanks to local sponsors. Join us August 7th at the Dar Agricultural Center from 2 to 5 p.m. Call 417-447-1483 to get your free tickets.
Everyone knows that July 4th is America's birthday, but did you know that our home state of Missouri also has a birthday this summer? Hi, this is State Representative Eric Burleson, and August 10th will be Missouri's 195th birthday. This year, I'd like to invite you to celebrate Missouri's birthday and show our state patriotism by proudly flying or displaying the Missouri flag in front of your home or business. What's that? You don't have a Missouri flag? Well, you're in luck, because I have a limited number of Missouri flags that actually flew at the state capitol, and I'd be willing to give one to you free of charge if you promise to fly it on August 10th, Missouri's birthday. For more information, please contact my office at 573-751-0136 or go to my constituent website at ericburleson.net. That's ericburleson.net. Thank you and happy birthday, Missouri.
Welcome back to the second half of Around the Ozarks this morning. My name is Scott Meyer. I'm the general manager here at the Midwest Family Broadcasting Group of radio stations. I've got a very special guest for the second half, Rob Blevins, who is the Community Relations Coordinator with Big Brothers Big Sisters here in Springfield. Morning.
Hi, Scott. Good morning.
Good to see you again.
There, I was thinking you were talking about somebody else when you said very special guest there, and then you said my name. So
well, it's
while
like...
I'm confused, I appreciate the kind words, and thanks for having me in today.
I mean, for me personally, Rob, it's a little like looking into a mirror since we both look so much alike, except for my gray hair and no beard.
I've got a lot of gray coming right now. And the
yeah,
beard
got a little bit
goes.
going.
Yeah, I got a little bit going.
The Big Brothers Big Sisters is certainly, I think, one of those well-known commodities, but probably under-known groups as to what they really do. There's a lot of those out there. You know, Boys and Girls Clubs. I think people hear the name Boys and Girls Clubs and they go, I've heard of those, but they don't know what really goes on there. But we're here to talk about Big Brothers Big Sisters here in the greater Springfield area. Mm-hmm. And why don't you just initially give us some idea of what Big Brothers Big Sisters is and what it means to you.
Okay, we'll start with our vision statement as I interpret it. It's that we believe at Big Brothers Big Sisters that a child should not have their future success defined by the adversities they may be facing. It's completely unfair, like, right, if you're born into a family where one of your parents is incarcerated or one of your parents passed away or you're in a situation of poverty, these things that aren't your fault as a child or sometimes anybody's fault, really, that's the type of thing that would keep you from being a successful person in life. That's our vision. And our mission is that we provide children facing this adversity with a one-on-one mentoring friendship that we professionally support that has the potential to change their life for the better forever. It's a pretty amazing thing, mentoring. I think most people, if you aren't egotistical, can get mentoring because you'll go back and right now replay in your mind the people that shaped you into who you are and be able to give them credit for something like that too, to realize that we're much more than just our own hard work, you know? So that's kind of how I feel the role that we play in that. So what we do is we take bigs and littles and we put them into a match together, hence the big brother, big sister thing. So we refer to the volunteers, the mentors, the adult positive role models as bigs, and then the children that come into our program as littles.
Sure. Now, you're a relatively young guy, and I think many times when people meet folks that are involved in active volunteerism, it's not always young people. I mean, a lot of times it's people that either have more time in their lives, maybe they've retired or have stepped back. But for you, obviously, this is a full-time job. Yeah. But why Big Brothers Big Sisters for you?
Well, it's kind of a long story, and I'll give you the quick version of this so we don't cut
That's
too
good,
much into
'cause we
everything
don't have
that
a
we
lot
need
of
to
time.
talk about. I come from a large family. I've got 7 brothers and sisters, and my older brother, Scott, he's 5 years older than me. He played this role as like a big brother type figure to me growing up because we had the 8 kids and the 1 income, and so we lived in what's referred to as situational poverty. And on my mom's side, it's generational poverty. She grew up in poverty. Her parents grew up in poverty. Her parents' parents grew up in poverty. And so I was born into this cycle of poverty. And if it weren't for my brother taking an interest in my life, telling me that I'm going to go to college, I'm going to get scholarships, I'm going to make sure that you make all the right decisions when you're in high school now so that you'll be able to go to college. And then once you get into college, I'm going to make sure you finish college. If I didn't have my brother Scott, I could be in a much different place right now. And not because I think everybody needs to go to college, but for me, it's really been necessary for me to be able to do the the things that I want to do in life to have that college degree. So I was able to go to Missouri State and complete a couple different degree programs there. And like I said, I'm not super successful. I'm not saying that I'm not sitting here saying, well, look at me now, I'm super successful because of him. But I know that every success I'm able to achieve in life is because of him. And years ago, I was on the board, or I've been on the board at Springfield Sertoma Club. We help raise funds for children's charities around town through our special events we put on. And through that, we had a gifting program to decide who would get those funds. And in researching all the different organizations that we were able to offer the funds to, doing our fiduciary duty, making sure that it's a good organization, I learned about Big Brothers Big Sisters and became a strong advocate for them. And then when the position opened up to come on, because I'm in about 2 weeks, I'll have made my 1-year mark at the agency. But it's something it's something I'm passionate about, and it's just a really good fit. And I know that what they do has meaning to it.
Let's talk about the kids before we get into the bigs and littles, if we can.
Sure.
The littles are the kids, but before we get into the bigs, how old do the kids have to be before they get a mentor from you?
Okay, so 6 to 14 is when we can match a child in our traditional community-based program, unless they have a parent that's incarcerated. Now, if you have a parent that's incarcerated, you're 7 times more likely to end up in jail or prison yourself. When I was talking about, not having a university define a child, that's really hard to overcome. And say it another way, 7 out of 10 kids that have a parent that's incarcerated end up exactly where their parents are. And that's not fair. It's not. So they can get in at 5. We try to get them help as soon as possible. And then that's our community-based program. And then we have our Lunch Buddies program, where you could be kindergarten to 4th grade when we make a match. And then our Mentoring 101 program over at OTC Middle College is for juniors or seniors in their Progressive High School Diploma program. So they're 16, 17, 18 years old.
Okay. My guest this morning, again, is Rob Levins. He's the Community Relations Coordinator with Springfield's Big Brothers Big Sister organization. I'm Scott Meyer, the General Manager here at Midwest Family, and you're listening to Around the Ozarks. That's the littles. Let's talk about the bigs for a minute. Do bigs have to be a specific age to mentor these kids?
They have to be 18, or if they're not over 21, they need to have lived in our service area for the last 6 months, which isn't necessarily a hard thing to do because we have a ginormous service area. Most of Southwest Missouri, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of the Ozarks, we cover the Ozarks.
Okay. So is there a cutoff at the other end? I mean, if you have to be at least 18 or 21, can it be someone my age? Can it be someone who's retired? Is it?
We have bigs. We have several bigs in their 70s, even more in their 60s, even more than that in their 50s. We tend to see that there's a decline as the age goes on, but it's not something that's a requirement for us. In fact, we allow littles, their parent or legal guardian that signs them up when we're talking to them about what type of big do you want. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we get them to say, I want more of a grandfather, grandmother type person, a mature person that can handle them and help them with that's very wise, has some experience behind them. Oftentimes, we'll get somebody that brings in a potential little brother that's applying to be in our program, and they'll say, well, they're absolutely insanely active. I'd really prefer a college age kid for a big brother. That's fine. We accommodate whatever, and we have all ages.
Okay. The other question really relates more towards, I love storytelling, and Rob, I'm sure you're a pretty good storyteller. Why don't you tell us a good story about something that you've seen in your time so far with Big Brothers Big Sisters, where you've actually seen that mentor make a difference?
Okay.
I'm sure you've got many, but I mean, one in particular that just stands out with you.
I oftentimes will ask for stories because I think stories have a powerful impact. I know they do. I studied that in my master's program, the impact of narrative. And so when I'm talking to current bigs, I always ask them for these stories about something that they've done with their little. That's amazing. I was talking to this big sister one time, and she said, yeah, Rob, I've got this amazing story for you. And she tells me the story, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's amazing, like trying to pretend like it was earth-shattering. Mm-hmm. And she's like, no, but wait, Rob, here's why it's amazing. So she said that she had picked up her little sister the week before, and they were been on Pinterest, and they'd picked a recipe for an entree and a recipe for a dessert. And then the next week, they went to the store. She took her to the grocery store and picked out all the ingredients to make those recipes. They went back to her apartment and then baked it. And yeah, I'm like, that's amazing. If you're a baking enthusiast, that's amazing. But you said amazing. I was trying to really act impressed, not to deflate her. And she's like, no, but wait, Rob. My little sister had never been to the grocery store before. Her family had done all of their grocery shopping her entire life at the gas station around the corner from their house. That's where they got all their food. I was like, all right, you're so right. That is amazing that you were able to expose your little sister to the world of healthy eating, to a grocery store, something so fundamental that we definitely take for granted, that people know what a grocery store is and how to cook healthy food to nourish them and give them energy in life. Because if you've been to a gas station recently and looked around at the food that's there, sometimes the fruit in the front is edible, oftentimes not. So that's a life-changing experience. And this is just an example of the impact that our bigs have on a daily basis.
That's a great example. You do take it for granted. Even things like kids knowing how to brush their teeth, wash their face. I mean, if you have nobody giving you that instruction at home, you wouldn't have a clue. Is there ever any gender mixing? When you talk about bigs as big brothers, big sisters, do you ever put a big sister with a young boy or a big brother with a young girl?
So what we have in that, as far as gender mixing, for a big couple, they would get a little brother. If you were to be a big couple, it's like being a big brother or big sister, but you do it together as a couple. You would get a little brother in that case because we have the waiting list of little brothers that are waiting for a big brother, so we always try to get them matched into that scenario. And then in our lunch buddy program, we have more little brothers coming into that program than we do big brothers. So because it's a site-based activity, the activity only happens at the elementary schools for lunch once a week. Oftentimes, if the parents are okay with it, we will go ahead and match a female volunteer with a male student, or else they might go without a lunch buddy ever, given how much the men in the community are stepping up right now to volunteer.
What's the greater need? Is it the bigs, finding more bigs, or is it money, or is it both?
It's a little bit of both. So there are approximately 10,000 elementary school students right now that are on free or reduced lunch in Springfield. Potentially all of those could benefit from having a big, right? And so last year we served, somewhere between, I think it was about 750 youths throughout the year. We ended the year with 400 and something active matches, 456, I believe. So we could grow quite a bit if we had the bigs to provide to the matches, to the littles that need them, and then the funding to support them, because these aren't just matches we put together, say, good luck, I hope you can make a positive outcome in this youth for your year of being with them. That's the minimum match requirement that we have that everybody commits to. That wouldn't be very responsible. So we have this whole match support program that helps those matches along the way, ensures child safety, and then facilitates the better forever that we aim for in our mission statement. So both. We need like $10 million and another 10,000 big brothers and big sisters, essentially.
There's always a need.
Yeah.
So I want to become a big. How do I do that?
You could go to bigbro.com and click on the link to volunteer. Or you could call our office at 889-9136, or you could send me an email directly to rblevins, BLEVINS, @bigbro.com.
Okay, and if I wanted to donate?
You can also go to bigbro.com and click on donate, or you can just mail us a check if you want from the website. You could do that. Or if you wanted to perhaps even get involved as a company, if you're part of an organization or a church, you could help us set up a presentation and recruit more bigs there, raise money through that organization as well.
Excellent, Rob. I want to thank Rob Levins, who's the Community Relations Coordinator for Big Brother, Big Sisters of the Ozarks organization, coming in really on short notice this morning. Thank you. Obviously, it's a great need, both for bigs and for money.
Well, thanks for giving us an opportunity to talk about some important stuff, Scott. I always enjoy chatting with you, and definitely this morning as well.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us this morning for Around the Ozarks, and we'll talk with you all again next week.
Thank you for joining us for Around the Ozarks, a public affairs program brought to you by your local Midwest Family Broadcasting Station. Listen again next Sunday morning at 6 a.m. Find this and all other segments of Around the Ozarks at mwfmarketing.fm.